Hello guys, so in this lesson we're going to be talking about parallel lines and transversal. So transversal is a line that goes through two parallel lines. In here we have a parallel line and another parallel line. Those two are parallel. That means that they don't cross each other. And this red line right here, we call it a transversal. Now this is very interesting because some properties are going to follow. The first property is going to be, if I have this angle here, this angle is going to be congruent to this angle. And we also know the vertical angles are also congruent. Oops, not that one. So as you can see, all those angles are congruent. That means that if this is 80, this will also be 80. And so will this right here. And so will this right here. Now it also follows that this angle right here, okay, is congruent to this one right here. Last time we talked about this whole angle right here is 180 degrees. So if that whole thing is 180 and this part is 80, that means that this is going to be 100, because 100 plus 80 obviously is 180. So this will also be 100. Vertical angles are also congruent. So this will also be 100, and that makes sense as well. So in a way, by giving you just one measurement, you can figure out the rest of the measurements. Okay? All right. We're going to be a little bit more specific, and we're going to talk about the names that those have. They have special names for each one of those. As you can see, when you have a transversal, okay, and two parallel lines, these ones are called corresponding angles. And this one, corresponding angles. They're on the same side, but opposite. These ones are called alternate interior angles. You can kind of tell the difference there. We also have alternate interior angles and same side interior or consecutive interior angles. Now you don't have to memorize this, it's not necessary, but on the quiz or on the lesson or IXL lesson, you might be asked for those technical names. So instead of memorizing them, go ahead and look them up on Google. Just look for angle relationship names. Or transversal, you can also write down on Google transversal and parallel lines. And a picture like this is going to show up. Okay? It says in here, well, let's just skip this one. Well, let's do it. It says, refer to the figure below, identify each pair of angles, okay, as alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding or consecutive interior angles. Okay, so we have 1 and 7. 1 and 7. Okay, 1 and 7. As you can see, I'm going to look over here really quick. 1 and 7. Okay, it's what we call alternate exterior angle. So this one are alternate exterior angles. Okay. All right, so on those, what you have to do is identify the angles using this idea here. Angle 2 and angle 10. Let's look for that. Angle 2 and angle 10. Those are actually, they're on the same side. So they're corresponding angles. Okay, so this one will be corresponding. Like I said, guys, I will recommend that you look for this on Google. That way you can see it and then you can refer to that when you do this. We have 8 and 9. 8 and 9 are what we call consecutive interior angles. Because they're on the same side. And all I'm doing, guys, in order to do this, I'm looking at the picture and I'm trying to match it with this right here. Which ones are the ones that correspond to that? I'm not the type of person that will ask you to memorize something or to know this out of your head. All I want you to do is find a picture like that on Google and be able to identify the names using what you have. Okay? So no memorization whatsoever is needed. What you really need to do is be able to identify it using whatever resource you find on Google. Alright, I'm gonna move on because those are pretty straightforward. And let's talk about solving for x on those type of problems. Alright, so on this one here, here's what's gonna happen. This right here is congruent to that right there. Okay, those are what we call consecutive interior, or let me say that corresponding angles actually. We already said that if this is 122, so will this right here. Okay, so if that's 122, remember, and this is very important, that all of this is 180 degrees. Okay, those are what we call supplementary angles. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means that 8x plus 10 plus 122, that's all going to add up to 180 degrees. This will allow us to solve for x. Okay, so I'm gonna add 10 plus 122 there. Then we're going to subtract 180 minus 132. That's going to give me 48. And then I'm going to divide by 8, and that's going to give me x is equal to 6. Alright? So we use this idea of transverse and parallel lines in order to solve this. Let's do a couple more problems so that we understand this very clearly. Okay, in here I have this 130 as well. Notice that if this is 130, so well, this right here, this will also be 130. And it makes sense. You just have to look at it. It even makes sense logically. Okay, so if that's 130, notice that all of this is 180. Okay, so that means that this x plus 58 plus 130, that must add up to, when you add those two together, that has to add up to 180 degrees. So if I add 58 plus 130, that's going to be 188. You're going to be subtracting 188 on both sides, you're gonna get -8 as your final answer. And it is okay to get negative values in here. Let's do a couple more, guys. Alright, so I want you to realize something on this one. This right here is going to be congruent to this right here. And remember that vertical angles are congruent to each other. So let's go back a little bit and let's talk about corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are congruent. That means that they're equal to each other. Exterior alternate angles are also congruent. And I'm misspelling congruent. That means that if this is 80, this will also be 80. And if this is 70, this will be 70. Interior alternate angles are also congruent. They're all congruent except for this one right here. Same side or co-interior angles. Those, they add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so angle 1 plus angle 2 is equal to 180. Alright, so let's use this idea to solve some problems. In here, first of all, let's identify this angle and this angle. If you look at the picture right here, they are exterior alternate angles. So these ones are called exterior alternate angles. Now the name probably doesn't make much sense to you, but all you have to know is that those two are congruent. And it makes sense, guys, that they're congruent because if this is congruent to this, that means that this will also be congruent to that. So you know that 6 plus 8x, that has to equal 70. Subtract 6 from both sides, you get 54. Okay, you divide by 8. Okay, and then you get 7. Sorry, this is 64. That's why I'm getting it wrong. Subtract 6. And then you get 8. Okay, sorry about that, guys. It's early in the morning. Alright, so x is equal to 8 on this one. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about this one here. You have to realize that this is congruent to that because those are called vertical angles. And vertical angles are always congruent to each other. So we have here, the setup is like this. 26x plus 2 is equal to 80. Subtract 2 on both sides, you will get 78. And then 78 divided by 26, that's going to be x is equal to 3. Okay, so I want to show you everything that I did there. I will be posting these notes on canvas as well, so you will be able to see them as well. All right, let's do a couple more. This and this, we talked about, they look like this one right here. We say that those add up to 180. And guys, it makes total sense that they do. Here is why. Because this angle is congruent to this angle right here. That means that if this is 15x, this will also be 15x. And we know already that when you add all those together, you get 180 degrees. Okay, so we know that 30x plus 15x, that has to add up to 180 degrees. 30x plus 15x is going to be 45x. It's equal to 180. We're going to divide 180 divided by 45, and now we're going to get 4. That's my final and ultimate answer. Let's do a couple more problems so you can see. Alright, same idea with this one. Look, all of that is going to add up to 180 degrees. So if I want to solve this, very simple. The way I set it up is like this: 13x plus 2 plus 100 is equal to 180. Okay, I'm going to add those two together. And then I'm going to subtract 102 from both sides. So 180 minus 102, that's going to be 78. Final step will be to divide 78 divided by 13. And you get x is equal to 6 as your final answer. So you have to, the hardest part of doing all of this is be able to set up the equation correctly. Okay, set up the equation correctly. They're either going to be congruent or they're going to add up to 180. That's what you have to decide. Okay, on this one here, are they congruent or are they going to add up to 180? Well, we know, okay, those are what we call, if you look at the notes in here, those are corresponding angles. And we said that corresponding angles are congruent. So in a way, this is congruent to that right there. So x plus 84 is equal to 75. 75 minus 84, of course, that's going to be -9. I hope these ones are starting to feel a little bit easier for you now. Take a look at this one here. This one, we already seen those before. Those are going to add up to 180. So we have 11x plus 8 plus 12x plus 11 is going to equal 180. Okay. Why do they add up to 180? Well, this is congruent to that right there. So this is also 12x plus 11. And we said that all of that is 180. I just want to make sure you got that clear. So we have 11x plus 12x is 23x. And then we have 8 plus 11. That's going to be 19. We're going to go ahead and subtract 180 minus 19, which is going to be 161. And then 161 divided by 23, that's going to be 7. Okay. All right, very good, guys. Maybe we can do a couple more problems and see, or I'm just gonna, for 17, 18, 19, and 20, I'm gonna set them up for you so you can see a little bit better. All right, so this one's here, those better add up to 180. So I set it up like this: 7x plus 12 plus 105 is equal to 180. I'm gonna have you solve that. All right, number 18. The way we set it up is like this. I know that this is congruent to that right there. How do I know that? Well, it's pretty clear that this is congruent to this, and that those are vertical angles, so that must be congruent as well. We also call this one alternate interior angles. And alternate interior angles are always congruent. So the way we set this one up is like this: x plus 57 is equal to 50. That is how I set it up. These ones are actually vertical angles. And we know that vertical angles are congruent. So if vertical angles are congruent, then I'm gonna set this one like this: 14 plus 7x is going to equal 9x minus 6. This one, the name specifically, those are called supplementary angles. Remember, supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180 degrees. So I know that 16x plus 2 plus 6x plus 2 is equal to 180 degrees. And then you solve for x. All right. Let's move on to another topic. Most of you should know this already. The sum of all the angles in a triangle is 180 degrees. This can be proven in many different ways. One way to prove that is if I draw a vertical line to this line right here. I'm going to draw a vertical line here. And I don't want to make this more confusing, but I do want to make sure that you guys understand this. So this is vertical to that line right there. So this means if this is angle 1, this is angle 2, and this is angle 3. Because of the properties that we just learned, this angle right here is congruent to this angle right here. So that is 1 as well. Something that you should know as well is that this angle right here is going to be congruent to that angle right there. So this will be angle 3 as well. And guess what? The sum of all those angles right there is 180 degrees. Awesome. So let's erase all of that. I don't want to make you more confused. That was just a little proof for you to see why they add up to 180 degrees. But what this theorem is saying is that if you have angle 1, angle 2, and an angle 3, when you add up the angles or the measurement of each angle, let's put a little m for measurement, that is all going to add up to 180. This is probably one of the most important theorems that we have in geometry. And let's go ahead and use that. It says here to solve for x. Very simple, guys. We know that this right here represents 90 degrees. So this means 90. So they're asking us to solve for x on this round. All I have to do is set it up this way. 90 plus 45 plus 57 plus x. Well, that has to add up to 180 degrees. I'm gonna go ahead and add all those with my calculator here. So we got 90 plus 45 plus 57. That's all going to be 192 plus x. Subtract 192 from both sides, and you get x is equal to negative 12. Like I mentioned before, guys, the goal in here is not to teach you algebra. This right here, you should know how to do because you have already taken algebra already. All right, same idea with this one. This plus this plus this is all going to add up to 180. So 4x plus 2 plus 60 plus 70, that's going to be 180 degrees. I'm not going to solve those. I'm just going to set them up, and then you can do them on your own. This one, same idea. We have a 90-degree angle here, plus 31, which is this one here, plus this right here, 68, plus x is going to equal 180 degrees. And then you solve those individually. Same idea with this one. All those are going to add up to 180. Something that you can do is to make it a little bit easier. Add this one plus this one plus this one here. You already that's just doing the algebra. That's 135, so it's 9x plus 135 is equal to 180. Okay, so that's another way you can set up the problem. Hopefully that wasn't confusing. All right, those are pretty much the same, so I'm gonna have you guys do that on your own. Now let's talk about this one right here. We're gonna be using a couple more properties in order to do this. All right, so let's start with this one here. We have 29. Okay, we have to rely on the fact that vertical angles are congruent. And now, what are vertical angles? Again, if I have two lines like that, this angle will be congruent to that angle. And this angle right here will be congruent to that angle. Okay, so we're gonna use that fact in here as well. So if this is 40, the vertical angle, which is this one, is also 40. If this is 100, so will the other one. And this right here will also be 4x. So as you can see, we have a triangle right here. Okay, all of those are going to add up to 180 degrees. So 40 plus 100 plus 4x is equal to 180 degrees. We add those two together, we get 140 plus 4x is equal to 180. Subtract 140 from both sides, you actually get 40x is equal to 10. That's your final and ultimate answer. Something else that you could have done as well is think about this. If this is 40 and this is 100, well, 100 plus 40 is 140. To get to 180, you need 40 more. So this better be 40. 4 times what is going to give you 40? It's going to be 10. Okay, so now that's another way you can think about this problem as well. Let's do another one. So in here, these are what we call multi-step problems. You have to use everything that we have learned so far and apply it to one problem. One thing you're going to apply in here is that vertical angles are congruent. So those are congruent to each other. Now, how do we get this right here? Okay, we know that all of that is 180. Well, if this portion right here is 131, what is this right here? The answer will be, well, it has to be 180 minus 131. So I'm going to subtract 180 minus 131. That's going to be 49. Okay, so that's 49 right there. So that means that x plus 35 plus 108 plus 49, that's all going to add up to 180 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and add all those numbers. We got 35 plus 108 plus 49. That's going to be 192 actually. And then we're going to subtract 192 on both sides. We should get negative 12. Let's go ahead and move on. See if we can do some harder ones. Oh, we'll figure that one out later. All right, this one here. Here's what's going to happen on this one. If this is 130, okay, there's a couple ways we can do this wrong. Okay, one way is to realize a couple of things. If this is 130, what would this be? Remember, all of this is 180. Okay, so if all of that is 180, then if this is 130, okay, how much more do we need to get to 180? Okay, we will just have to subtract 180 minus 130. And what will we get? Okay, we will get 50 right there. This will also be 105. Now let's think about this. What is this right here? Well, I know that this plus whatever we find in here, that has to all add up to 180. So what I could do to find that right there is I could subtract 180 minus 50 minus 105. So 180 minus 50 is 130 minus 105, that's going to be 25. So this right here is 25. Okay? Now you have to realize we're solving for x in here, but we know that when you add up all that, that's also 180. So now let's solve for x. We know that 25 plus 30x plus 5, that's going to equal 180 degrees. 25 plus 5 is going to be 30. Subtract 30 from both sides. We get 115. X is equal to 5. Okay, so these are what we call multi-step problems because we have to use a lot of steps in order to get to that final solution. Okay, same idea with this one here. This right here, the 6x plus 5, well, so what this right here? So this right here is 6x plus 5. What will this be right here? Well, I know that all of this is 180. So 180 minus 150a, 180 minus 150a is equal to 22. So this right here will be 22. So here's how we set up the problem. We have this angle right here, 6x plus 5 plus 81 plus 22, all of that is going to add up to 180 degrees. So let's add 5 plus 81 plus 22. Well, that's 108. Then we subtract 108 from both sides, we get 72. And then of course 72 divided by 6 is 12. Now if I told you there is one way to do all of these problems, I will be lying. You have to use what you know and apply it in order to solve each problem. Every problem might look a little bit different. Okay? Alright. This one's here, they're asking you to find the measurement of angle A. This is pretty easy as well. After we find X, we just plug in there and then we find A. So it's the same idea with this one. 2x plus 135 plus x plus 9 is equal to 180. Okay, so 2x plus x there is 3x. We have 135 plus 9. It's going to be 144. Subtract 144 from both sides. We get 36. X is equal to 12. Now, I'm asking you to find the measurement of angle A. Whenever you're doing the homework or the quiz, be careful what I'm asking you. Okay, so angle A, I'm going to plug in 12 in there. It's 12 plus 9. Okay, and I'm going to get 21. That's your final answer. Now those are pretty self-explanatory. All you have to do is the same thing, but you just have to find the measurement of angle A. Let's do some harder ones. I'm pretty sure I have harder ones in here. Alright. Find the measurement of the angle indicated. Alright, so we have to find this guy here. We have to use everything that we know in order to solve it. Okay, so let's use absolutely everything that we know in order to solve this round. When I take a look at this round, I want to figure out all the angles as possible. I look at this one here and I know, how do I figure that one out? Well, I know that all of that is 180 degrees. So that means if I want to get this angle right here, I have to subtract 180 minus 105. And that will give me 75 right there. Okay, so I found one angle there. We're still trying to find this one here. But in order to get there, we have to know what this is first. In order to find that one, we gotta find all the other ones. All right, so how do I find this angle now? Well, simple. I know that all of those add up to 180. So I use my calculator and I am gonna subtract 180 minus 45 minus 75. Okay, so 180 minus 45 minus 75, that means that this is 60 degrees. Well, notice that this whole angle right here is 90 degrees. So if this is 60, then that means that this is 30. Why? Because, of course, yeah, 60 plus 30 is 90. All right, what is this angle right here? 180 minus 60 is going to be 120. Okay, we have 180. To get this one, I'm going to subtract 180 minus 120 minus 30. So 180 minus 120 minus 30. That's going to be 30 right there. Okay? So if that's 30, that means 180, this is 150. Okay? Alright, so as you can see guys, those problems are a little bit more difficult. But it's all about using everything that you know to figure it out. Okay, so we got this is 49, so will this right here. Okay, if this is 76 and this is 49, I can easily find this because I know that all of those angles add up to 180. So if all of those add up to 180, I'm going to subtract, guys. 180 minus 76 minus 49 is going to give me that missing angle that I need. How did I get that 55? Again, 180 minus 76 minus 49 gave me that 55 right there. Now I know that this whole thing, all of that is 90. So how do I find this portion right here? Well, if that's 55, I'm going to subtract 90 minus 55. This better be 35 because 35 plus 55 is 90 degrees. Almost there, guys. This is also going to be 78 because vertical angles are congruent to each other. I need to find this guy in order to find the missing information that I have here. How do I find this guy right here? Simple. I'm going to subtract 180 minus 78 minus 35. So I have 180 minus 78 minus 35. This right here is going to be 67. Now, how do I find that missing question mark? Well, I know that all of this adds up to 180. So I'm gonna subtract one more time 180 minus 67. That's gonna be 113, and that is your final and ultimate answer. I'll do 2 more, and then you can do the rest. I don't want to do that many because this one's take forever. I'll do it a little bit faster now that you should have the idea. To get this one, I know I'm going to subtract 180 minus 135. This right here is going to be 45. This is 102. Okay, to get this one, I'm going to subtract 180 minus 45 minus 102, so 180 minus 102 minus 45. This right here will be 33. Okay, I know that all of this is 180. So in order to find this guy right here, I need to subtract 180 minus 102 minus 33. So that means that this right here is 45. So if that's 45 and this is 40, I need to find this guy right here. That's easy. I'm gonna subtract 180 minus 45 minus 40, and that's gonna give me 95. In order to find this one right here, all I have to do is subtract 180 minus 95, and that's gonna be 85. Alright, sounds good. And that was what I'm looking for. Let's do maybe one more and then we're done with this video. Let's take a look at this one here. This one looks more interesting. We have, if this is 30, this will also be 30 as well. And this will be 85 as well. Okay, I need to figure out what this is right here. So I'm going to subtract 180 minus 85 minus 30, and that's going to be 65. All of this is going to add up to 180. So if I want to find this right here, I'm going to subtract 180 minus 65 minus 79. This portion right here is going to be 36. If I want to figure out what this is right here, I need to subtract 180 minus 116. That's going to give me 64. I know that all of those angles add up to 180. So I'm going to subtract 180 minus 36 minus 64, and my final answer will be 80. Alright, guys, so I'm going to leave it at that. You can do the rest of the problems. You can do 45 and then 44 on your own, and hopefully 39 and 40 as well, and the rest of the problems. I'll see you guys in the next video.